welcome back to our Southern Illinois Railfan Adventure series. We're going to pick up right back where we left off on part 1, and we're going to head over from the CN, and we're going to move over to the Union Pacific Mount Vernon Subdivision, and we're going to have a good time here. You're going to see a lot of really interesting trains, and we're going to end up changing time conventions. So it's going to be a lot of fun, so let's get started. As we made our way back south, we noticed that a block signal around Bonnie, Illinois was red, and then we looked further south and we saw a northbound headlight, so there was a train coming. So we stopped off here in Bonnie, Illinois to see what that was all about. Northbound is UP ZEGYC Daily Hotshot Intermodal from Eagle Pass, Texas, transferring from Ferromex to Yard Center in Dolton, Illinois. Very nice surprise on ZEGYC. Trailing second is a Ferromex Jevo in the new zebra paint scheme. ZEGYC is actually a really interesting train. It's several trains made up into one. So we'll start with the makeup of the train. The actual ZEGYC cut is first here. That is the Eagle Pass, Texas to Dolton, Illinois cut. And then second is the ILDYC cut, which is actually the symbol we caught when we were back here in 2021. This is from Laredo, Texas to Yard Center in Dolton, Illinois. This runs up to San Antonio as ILDSA and merges into the ZEGYC there at San Antonio. And then you have the ILDSM cut, which also runs on ILDSA to San Antonio. This is Laredo, Texas, actually to Salem, Illinois, which then transfers to CSX and goes to Detroit as I-132. The southbound runs as I-131. So the same is true in reverse order for ZYCEG. It's basically 3 trains in one, a big PSR special. Sometimes in the height of PSR it would get to 20,000 feet plus. Today it's only about 12,000 feet, so by that standard, not very big. By our normal southern standards here, it's actually pretty big, but for the standards of what this train has been in the past, it's kind of middle of the road, so to say. Lately also they have been running the northbound ISAYCX in place and running like 2 different northbounds instead of running it all together. And then sometimes the CSX cut has been running as its own train as ISMMX instead of running it being combined at Salem. So this is just a really big, interesting PSR special. Before we get too far into the video, let's talk a little bit about the UP Mount Vernon Subdivision. The Mount Vernon Sub runs south out of Salem, Illinois through namesake town of Mount Vernon. Then at Benton, Illinois, it makes the turn towards Gorham, where the line connects with the UP Chester Sub. The Mount Vernon Sub is primarily former Missouri Pacific lines, with the section between Salem and Benton being former Chicago and Eastern Illinois. It's now sunset, and we have another northbound approaching, so we're here at the north end of Ina Siding in Ina, Illinois, as the northbound approaches. Northbound is UP MNLTT Daily Manifest train from North Little Rock, Arkansas. It's actually going to terminate in Salem, Illinois, technically speaking, but it's going to actually continue on to the CN. It's going to transfer to the CN there at Salem/Kinmundy, Illinois, and then head all the way to Toronto, Canada. This may not be the last time we see this train. It's almost last light, and we're now at the south end of Ina as a southbound is approaching us. For the second day in a row, southbound is UP MPRNL. This time it's right before sunset as opposed to dark. A little bit of downgrade on the leader, but that's fine. This was a pretty good train at a pretty good speed. It's now Sunday, and we're now in daylight savings time. Now, while it's a different day and the time may have changed, one thing hasn't changed, and that's the trains are still running. Southbound through Benton is UP ZEGYC, the mega modal headed towards Mexico. I mentioned earlier that the UP Mount Vernon Sub turns at Benton to head towards Gorham. Well, Benton is actually a very interesting railroad scene. Of course you have the Mount Vernon Sub, which comes south into town and then turns towards the west to head towards Gorham, but there's also a Y there and a line that continues southward. This is the UP Marion Sub, which houses a few coal trains weekly, as well as a local that heads towards Marion, Illinois, and points south. In addition, you actually have a little CN line here, the CN El Dorado subdivision, which is kind of like a link between the CN Centralia sub and the Blueford Cutoff over on the other side, over towards Aiken, Illinois. This line sees a once-a-week local as well as any potential possible reroutes. This used to be a big scene for coal trains, which of course traffic on coal trains around here has dwindled substantially in the last 20 to 30 years. We're now at the big junction of all those lines, Benton Junction, as a southbound is approaching.
I think it's BNSF.
I can see that also.
It looks orange.
I can't tell from here.
I think it's BN. That's not UP. It's Manifest too.
No, it's TTPB.
With the
That's
It's BNSF.
It is being. Wow.
It's BNSF.
That's random.
There's two of them too.
Southbound is UP MTTPB. It's actually the counterpart of the MNLTT we saw the other night. It's actually headed to Pine Bluff, Arkansas. During the time of when we were up here, they had briefly extended this train to run all the way to Pine Bluff, but since then they have kind of truncated it back to being MTTNL again. Too many letters. Interesting power set on this train today. We actually have a pair of BNSF Tier 4 GEVOs, which it's actually quite rare to get BNSF power on the UP Mount Vernon Sub, so this was actually a pretty neat treat. After a quote-unquote adventure, we're now all the way in Alma, Illinois, which is actually on the UP Salem Sub, which is the north end of the Mount Vernon Subdivision. It ends at Mount Vernon and then becomes the Salem Sub from Salem to Findlay Junction, Illinois. And we have the same train we saw yesterday evening, MNLTT, but now it's running as MSMKIJ or CNL 598 if you prefer. It's transferring to CN now to run to Champaign, Illinois to combine with M396. They've also added a CNDC Jibo 4th, so interesting. We've made our way back south, and now we're somewhere between Bonnie and Ina, Illinois. I'm not exactly sure where at, how close we are. We're somewhat close to Ina siding. We noticed that there was a clear signal for a southbound as we exited Mount Vernon, so we made a stop here, and we see a southbound approaching. For the third night in a row, it's MPRNL. It's got a signal to go in the siding at Ina, where he's going to meet 2. Wasting no time on the main is northbound number 1 UP ZEGYC, much shorter today than what it was yesterday. We rode back down to Whittington for northbound number 2. Northbound number 2 blast through Whittington. The train is UP MLDYC, which is an auto-rack train from Laredo, Texas, headed to Yard Center in Dolton, Illinois. Very nice horn on the leader. When we got back to Benton in dark, we kind of got lost on the roads and somehow made our way back to the track, so we ended up seeing MPRNL one more time before a well-deserved dinner. Well, that's going to do it for our part 2 of our Southern Illinois Railfan adventure. Hope you had a good time watching all the different trains of the UP Mount Vernon Subdivision. If you liked the video, be sure to leave a like. If you liked what you saw, be sure to subscribe to see more content just like this. We got part 3 coming soon where we're going to see a lot of more interesting things. We're going to head back towards the CN, but we're also going to be near the BNSF and the NS. So yes, we are going to Centralia, Illinois to set up and around the area, and we're going to see a lot of interesting things that you usually wouldn't see on a normal day. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. Again, be sure to leave a like on the video, and if you liked it, be sure to subscribe for more, and we will see you in part 3, and I will leave you with a preview of part 3 here. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time. Next time on Train Guy Calibrator Southern Illinois Adventure. Centralia, Illinois, the crossroads of CN, BNSF, and NS. Look out for the locals, they might have some special power. Is this BNSF or Santa Fe?